So you've probably heard the term child-led learning bandied about, yes? And you've maybe seen one or two judgy glances between home educators that fall on either side of the argument. But what if it wasn't an argument at all? What if the labels that we use to identify ourselves as home educators swing wide open the doors rather than kind of creak them closed? For our top 5 this week, I'm going to dive straight into the fray and discuss the top 5 lies that we can believe about child-led learning. Now, as I seem to say a lot in my videos, I'm no expert, but I am passionate about building community and starting conversations. So that's what I'd like to do right now. So grab a cuppa, take a seat, get ready to type furiously into the comments about the things that you maybe disagree with me on, and let's do this. Every healthy conversation starts with defining the terms and making sure we're on the same page. So for the sake of this video, child-led learning is just when children make the decisions about what and how they learn. Now, some people hear that and it's a really empowering phrase as a parent or an educator. We think, wow, this is so exciting. Others of us hear that and it's downright frightening. And lots of us, including me, kind of move between those two ends on a day-to-day basis. So full disclosure, I lean towards child-led learning, but as yet, not all of my parenting or home education would look like child-led learning. I'm still in a process. So that's one reason why I think these lies are really helpful to talk about, so that those of us that are learning can make sure that we're kind of nailing our flag to the right post. Lie number 1, child-led learning is a style of education. No. This is one that I think is a bit of my personal bugbear because I've seen a few people get annoyed at each other because of that, getting the wrong end of the stick on this. Child-led learning is not a style of education. Every child is completely different, so it makes sense that the choices they make about their learning are going to result in very different journeys. So you could be a family that has worksheets coming out of your ears, that has a very strict schedule, and be completely child-led learners. You could send your kid to school. That might be controversial. You could send your kid to school and still be a proponent of child-led learning. Or you could be a family that's completely free and easy of schedules, that never plans a lesson, and actually not be child-led learners. Being a child-led learner, letting your children make the decisions and facilitating that for them about their learning, is a foundational principle. It is not a style of education. Lie number 2, child-led learning families are just lazy. It's the easy way out. Parents or educators can sit back and let the kids make all the decisions, do what they want, and they don't have to think about what's happening. The day's just planned for them because the kids are making all the decisions. Now, I hope it's obvious that that isn't true, but I think sometimes we can believe it to be true because it's a different type of planning for some of us that are maybe more structured or more parent-led learners, if that makes sense, because it's not as easy to define and to put that learning in a box. But if you are a child-led learning family, you have to be really intentional. You have to be ready to pivot any minute and become an expert in any subject to help facilitate your children. You do a lot of planning about what your children will be exposed to, what they will experience. You have to be there alongside your child the whole time, focused and observing and really interested and noticing everything about them so that you can react to that as a parent. That is hard work. Lie number 3, and I think this one people might disagree with me at first. Child-led learning is natural. It's just the way things happen. If children are left to their own devices and just get to do what they want, this is a natural progression that they would take. Now, the reason why I disagree with that is because in reality, we're not left to our own devices. There are systems and structures and expectations and rules and routines around us that impose some of those decisions on us. Some of those we willingly enter into, some of those are placed upon us. But the fact is that if we are doing child-led learning, we are going against the norm. We are going what is perceived to be natural by everybody else. And being countercultural can be emotionally exhausting. And that's one reason why I think as a home ed community, we have to make sure that we're uniting over these terms rather than dividing, because it's exhausting enough having to deal with working against the tide rather than with it. So line number 3, child-led learning sadly isn't natural, but is countercultural. Line number 4, child-led learning is parental martyrdom. And by that I mean that in order to let our children make all the decisions about their learning and how they do that, then we have to completely die to self and make sure everything is prioritized towards that. And that's simply not feasible. And it's not child-led learning, I don't believe anyway. I think child-led learning is more about developing a team, working together with your children, teaching them compassion and understanding for other people, and learning that ourselves as well towards our children. So if a parent needs some time out, needs some rest, needs some activities that are not a choice of the child, then there's got to be discussion about that. It's not just going to be, well, the child decides it and that's it. It's not that. It's about working together and collaborating to come up with the best fit for your family and their learning all together. Line number 5, child-led learning is a competition. No. And it seems obvious, but I think we can all admit to there's sometimes been a certain amount of snobbery in the home ed community. And the reason I can say that is because I am guilty of that myself, and certainly have been more so in the past, where we think that we've somehow done the most research, given the things the most thought, that have got things right, and other people, maybe they don't care as much, or maybe they just haven't reached that level of home ed enlightenment yet. And obviously that's complete rubbish, but we can still feel that, which is something that we need to fight against, because child-led learning isn't a competition. It's not about who has the most relaxed home, who has the least plans, and vice versa. It's not about the opposite. It's about community, because to do child-led learning well, not only do we need the whole family to collaborate, but we need the whole community to be involved too, because we're not all experts on the same thing. We need other people to share that, and we need support and help through this, because child-led learning, as I mentioned, can be really tiring. So we've got to make sure that we don't make it a competition, but we think about how we can build community that enables us to do that more. So there were my top 5 lies I think we can believe about child-led learning. I would love to know what you think. I would love to know if you disagree with me. I'm always willing to learn, so definitely let me know in the comments below. See you next time.